Hey guys, I'm Tiffany Harlick, and this is the Wise Skies podcast. We're recording to YouTube and to the podcast, so I am trying to navigate doing that well within two worlds, and thanks for your patience. What I wanted to take a look at was the 2021 forecast and just kind of some of the bigger picture themes of where the planets are, what we can expect, and some themes from the cosmic counselors, if you will. Before we jump into that, I wanted to take a look at the numerology because it's always fun to kind of feel the shift of a new year, ushering in that new energy, right? And so the glasses clink and you kiss your lover and the ball drops and we've got this celebration, this New Year celebration going on. And what we feel most easily is the shift from the numerology of being a 4-year into a 5-year. So I want to touch on that before we geek out on the planets. What a 5-year does, if you think about the number 5 and a 5-pointed star, what can happen is we can feel pulled in a lot of different directions. The energy can tend to be a little bit more scattered. But what this can do on the positive side is help us like live life in the fast lane. It's a good year to take a risk on yourself, to gamble on yourself. Now, I'm going to tell you to be conservative with your finances a little later in the show. So don't take that the wrong way. But this is a time to kind of put yourself out there. It's a very dynamic energy. It reminds me of this Four of Wands in Tarot, where you kind of got to find order through chaos, where you've got to be the surfer riding the surfboard through the wave, where you're finding your own sense of peace and equilibrium, even though everything out there is a little bit more chaotic. You might find that there's a lot of distractions available throughout the year. And it could be that you get to the end of the year and you wonder what you did with all your energy and all your time. And so just being aware of that, that quality that the 5 can bring to it, distracting you from your goals. Another element of the 5 that really mimics the astrology has to do with the concept of freedom. The 5 represents our need to be free, our need to live life by our own design, our need to live life on our own terms, or to live life on life's terms, right? So some people will express this by traveling more or getting a sense of cabin fever and exploring just different areas in their own neighborhood. Some people will change the terms of their relationships or date outside of their normal type. You want to just get curious about the adventure that's available for you in this 5 energy. It's also a great year for physical and spiritual fitness, resetting that, recalibrating that. The 5 gives you the right amount of spark and energy and interest in making a change. And so maybe it's now is the time to stop drinking, to stop eating gluten, to stop eating meat or dairy or grains, whatever it is. There's a shift available that give you a positive and lasting change, both physically and spiritually. Okay. Things to guard against, I mentioned the scattered energy. We don't want to waste our precious time and flit away the hours and get to the end of the year and feel like we haven't accomplished anything or there isn't a sense of fulfillment. So really knowing what it's like to feel fulfilled for you is going to be helpful in keeping you on track. So you might get to the end of the year and be like, well, I knitted one blanket and that's a sense of fulfillment, or whatever that sense of fulfillment is for you. Just knowing that the hourglass, the sands of time are running out, and through the year of 2021 is just going to go by, I think, fast. And so knowing what brings you a sense of joy, a sense of completion, so that you don't get distracted and let your energy get scattered. Okay, so that's a little tiny bit about the universal year of numerology. But as we look at astrology, like I said, the astrology weather forecast mimics the numerology a lot. So the planetary advisors that we're going to look at today, we're just going to look at where the bigger outer planets and where they're going to be in the sky for most of 2021. If you're wanting a breakdown, a monthly breakdown, I'm going to go deeper into that the closer we get to 2021. But right now, I just wanted to give you a little heads up, a little overview, something to look forward to as we're closing out 2020. This song, so a lot of times when I'm writing the astrology, a song will come to mind. And the song that came to mind during this article was lyrics from 38 Special, where he talks about, hold on loosely, but don't let go. If you cling too tightly, you're going to lose control. Baby needs somebody to believe in and a whole lot of space to breathe in. So you're welcome that I didn't try to sing that for you, but you get the idea. It also dates me a little bit. You get this idea of being like a leaf on a fast moving stream, being willing to adapt and continue to change. I don't see things going back to the old normal. I see this kind of new territory unfolding, and I just wanted to discuss a little bit. Here's why. So first, I wanted to look at Pluto. So Pluto will have been in Capricorn. It's going to stay in Capricorn. Both of Pluto and Capricorn are kind of this powerhouse of energy, and Pluto really digs deep and transforms and changes wherever it goes. So the idea that we have this excessive energy just brewing up in with Pluto here, that things are coming unhinged, and unhinged energy needs an outlet. So becoming a bridge for heaven and earth, channeling this chaotic energy into something positive, purging things that you don't need, this shift towards minimalism, towards clearing your clutter, towards letting the skeletons from your past and come out of the closet and be free to kind of move forward and heal. So there's no secrets, there's no cover-ups, you know what I mean? And this idea that when things come unhinged, when life feels unmanageable, a lot of times our tendency is to try to control it, right? We don't want to feel out of control. We want to feel a sense of order a lot of times, right? And so I'm reminded of one of my favorite quotes by Anne Lamott, which is that help is just the sunny side of control. So if you notice throughout 2021 that you're trying to help somebody or fix something, are you really trying to help them, or are you trying to prevent them from having a human reaction so that you don't have to deal with their big, huge, scary reaction? Just being willing to surrender and for things not necessarily to look like the way that you wanted them to or the way that you thought they were going to, turning whatever feels unmanageable into this like pure surrender. That's going to be a lesson coming from Pluto. In Capricorn, right? It's an earth sign. And so there can be groundbreaking, literally groundbreaking changes, disruptions of old structures, both politically, emotionally, physically. This natural cycle that Pluto embodies is the cycle of life and death. And it reminds us that something has got to give, something has got to crash and burn before new life begins. And as we prepare for this like dying off of old ways and these old structures that are falling to the ground, it would be wise of us to carry some of the wisdom from our past forward with us into the present moment and into the future. And I titled my article about this Back to the Future, because I do think that in 2021, we're going to have a lot of opportunity to work the timeline, so to speak, to work with information and knowledge from the past, bringing it forward into the future and kind of synthesizing them in the present moment. I know a lot of times our meditation practices are all about just being present, and I don't want to distract or take away from that, but I do see some opportunities to use like stuff from the old days and kind of renovate them and turn them into innovative new concepts or ideas or projects. So sidebar, Pluto is going to move into Aquarius in 2025. Now this is really exciting because in 2025 on the yogic timeline, this is when we're coming out of the Kali Yuga. And so there's a lot of kind of buildup in this Aquarian energy. And, we're talking about 2021. A lot of people are looking for the good news. What's the good news? But I just feel like we're in this broader period of time that's kind of leading up towards 2025, where we're feeling a true sense of newness, a new blossoming, a new period, right? A new epoch. So that's Pluto. I want to talk to you about Neptune. So Neptune is the planet, if Pluto is the great alchemist, transformer, changer, deep, dark, metaphysical teacher, Neptune is like the meditation teacher, the yoga teacher, the singer, the songwriter, the artist, the creative. Okay, and Neptune is very comfortable in Pisces, where it moved into in 2012 and will continue to be there until 2025. And so this is the age of entertainment. This is the age where we can really work with our creativity, our psychic development. This is working with a muse, taking time out for spiritual quests, deepening your meditation practices, regularly clearing your energy, your chakra, right? Working with crystals, stuff like this is all very interesting and popular. Now, on the negative side, or on the bad behavior side of Neptune and Pisces, there can be a tendency to look at escapist or addictive behaviors, addictive attitudes or tendencies. So just being careful about who you're aligning with and losing yourself, right? So knowing always that this too shall pass. That there are some people that are going off the deep end and being a lighthouse to others. So there's a sense of false gurus too. So just depending on how Neptune is aspected in your chart, will that like be a thing or not be a thing, right? And so this idea of false gurus, you're seeing it kind of like cults in entertainment, right? We saw, if you look at even just Netflix, there's the thing about Scientology, there's the thing about Waco, there's this kind of fascination or interest with groups that have a certain belief system, a certain way. And so this idea that we're wanting to learn more about that during this year, I think that we'll see, I guess, an interest in those kind of topics. I was just volunteering at the polls at the election, and we have a cult in that area. I shouldn't have said that. Like, I was told that it was a cult. I don't know what they believe, but there's a large group of people with a similar belief system that was coming in, and it was new to me to interact with that particular group that was coming in to vote. And I was just there to register voters and help them get through the line. And it's just incredibly fascinating to me to talk with people about their different beliefs and their different spiritual, I guess, systems, right? So that will continue to be interesting, I think, for many people. Uranus. So if we've got Neptune as the meditation teacher, Uranus is like the Einstein. He's like the crazy old dad in Beauty and the Beast who sits in the top of the hill and has brilliant ideas, and just things are steaming and bubbling and changing and turning. And Uranus represents not only just Einstein energy, but revolution, okay, and revolutionary theories and ideas. And when Uranus is in Taurus, okay, it moved there around 2019. It'll stay there for roughly 7 years, give or take. So Uranus in Taurus, the sign of the bull, it's kind of like the bull in the China closet or store, China store, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like this bull energy where he's in too small of a space and he's breaking a lot of stuff in this kind of chaotic, energetic spouts of energy. So Taurus rules food and finance, okay, our money, the earth, our value system, stuff like this. And so there's a lot of astrologers that are talking about and have been predicting economic recession, continued changes in our financial system, continued, higher rates of unemployment, stuff like this. That is not my specialty. That's not my area, but you'll hear people talking about that. And that's why. Taurus resists. Uranus moves swiftly. And so there will be some kind of disturbance in the force that continues around our finances. That's why I'm suggesting this could be a more conservative year for you. And in terms of food, this is a really exciting area to me. The slow food revolution, gardening, homesteading, food independence, growing your own vegetables, and not just like the tomatoes and jalapenos that we grow here in Texas for salsa, but like a full food forest, and really becoming more kind of back to the earth. And what can we do? What, as my friend Sasha says, I wonder what kind of report card Mother Earth will give us. You know what I mean? And so keeping your finger on the pulse of the food revolution throughout 2021 is going to be interesting. Like seed libraries, geek out on soil, changing to plant-based diets. Like all of this is going to be part of what we're going to see unfold. We're also going to look for changes in policies around how we regulate supplements, how we regulate or label things that are organic or kosher or vegan or stuff like this. I think there will be some policy changes going on at a more global, larger level, I should say. So That's Uranus for you. Looking at Jupiter and Saturn, okay, so this is one of the big pieces of news for 2021 is that Jupiter and Saturn will have moved into the sign of Aquarius. They have this kind of meeting of the minds every 20 years. Their cycle is like every 20 years, they get a little high school reunion and they get to meet together in the sky at 0 degrees, right? And so here back, I guess, depending on when you're listening to this, December 21st, it was the first time that they had this great meeting together, this grand conjunction, right? And so this was in the sign of Aquarius. And so previously, these 20-year reunions were happening in all earth signs. And now they're going to be happening in all air signs for the next 200 years. And so this is why you hear astrologers talking about a changing of the guards. An old king has died and the new king comes to reign, and we're not really sure what he's going to do with things. How are the rules going to change? What will he do with his power and his intelligence and his laws and his boundaries and borders and grouping of people, right? It's all interesting and different. Radical ideas, big changes are taking place as we enter this new 200-year cycle with Jupiter and Saturn. And this movement from Earth to air really symbolizes kind of a rocket launch, a rocket ship that's going off, that's leaving Earth and going into space. And we're going to continue to see themes in space throughout the rest of the astrology. But you're going to think like audible books instead of physical books, virtual classrooms instead of going to school. You're going to think going to court on Zoom instead of in person. Stuff like this, just changing from this physical world into a more telepathic, psychic, artificial intelligence, internet-y type of world, right? And we're going to be identifying with different archetypes as this 200-year cycle begins. We're going to be shifting our alliances. There's going to be a reversal of attitudes in some of our groups as well, where the liberals become more conservative, where the conservatives become more liberal. And so there can be this kind of elusive blurriness that's going on for a while. So just really paying attention to your groups and who you align with and why. And if that shifts and changes, what do you need to what do you want to, what group do you want to be part of or start, or all of that is going to be a little bit blurry and start to clarify by the end of the year. And just when you're dealing with different groups, just remember what unites us, remember what keeps us the same, remember our similarities, look at something that you have in common with the other person or the other team, and just try to keep the doors of communication open and stay fascinated and interested with a childlike wonder with our fellow people, is what I'll say about that. All right. Aquarius governs innovation, and Jupiter's influence brings like technological advances. Saturn's influence, the other, the constricting one, creates new regulations and stuff like around the internet. So I would not be surprised if we saw more rules and regulations having to do with our Zoom meetings, our social media channels, stuff like this. I wanted to point out that Saturn first was entered Aquarius back in March of 2020. And that's when we saw like a big flurry around COVID. So these trends of isolation and quarantine that Saturn represents, we see in the sign of Aquarius, widespread panic, airborne illnesses, stuff like this. And we'll see with the Saturn-Uranus squares of 2021, the biggest transits of the year, we'll see that this has been a theme that in, 75 to 77, the Saturn-Uranus squares coincided with the swine flu. We saw in 2008 and 2010 that the Saturn-Uranus opposition coincided with the H1N1 pandemic. And so these themes that we're seeing are not foreign. They are things that we can handle and we can get through. Okay, so that's a little bit about Jupiter and Saturn. Sidebar, I wanted to mention that the Mercury retrograde cycles are all going to be in air as well. So a very air-oriented year, which matches that 5 energy, right? So if you're like, Tiffany, where's the good news? I want you to look at Jupiter that will be moving briefly back into Pisces in May through July. There's a lot of like the skies are at rest this summer. So even though it still feels like a tense, bang on, get it going kind of a year, lots of gong crashing going on. I just feel like over the course of the summer is when we catch a little break, and it has a lot to do with Jupiter backtracking into Pisces, when we're able to be more selfless and more service oriented to each other. Those type of compassionate, unconditional, loving vibes are what we're going to be reaching for, to recalibrate our own hearts and the hearts of everybody that we love, everybody around us. So I'm going to look briefly at the moon's nodes, okay? And the moon's nodes, the north node and the south node. The north will be in Gemini, the south node will be in Sagittarius. The last time we had this setup was 83, and we saw the first woman enter space. The Gemini Sagittarius line is all about information, data gathering, changing your philosophy, new worldviews. And so, you know, the ideas around time travel and space and foreign affairs and foreign objects and aliens and UFOs and all kinds of, you know, different uh, religions and stuff like this is going to be curious for many of us. Um, Last but not least, I want to talk about Chiron, you know, Chiron as the wounded healer, Chiron as the sponsor in your sobriety, Chiron as the big sister in your sorority, that the energy that has gone before you and has felt your pain and is uniquely qualified to help you through a really difficult time. This is where the student becomes the mentor and starts to give back. You know, Chiron in Aries is a great period. It's an 8-year period, give or take, 2018 to 2027, that Chiron will remain in Aries. And so I have a whole big, huge special article on this. I'll be putting in the links, but if you're at Wise Skies Advice, you'll be able to find my Chiron and Aries article. And this is kind of when health and self-help takes a DIY approach, when we're more interested, like, I don't want you to read my tarot cards. I want to read them myself. I want to learn how to do it myself. I don't want you to give me a Reiki healing session. I want to learn how to Reiki myself. Like that's the kind of vibe that we're working with here. So it's great for people like me who are into teaching you how to use astrology, tarot, mediumship, numerology in your own life. So if you're interested in metaphysical topics, here's my little plug. Come to our classes. We've been doing Akashic Records and Enneagram and yoga, philosophy. We've done all kinds of good, exciting classes that Chiron and Aries will continue to thrive with. Aries, right? It holds the Mars vibration of energy and stamina and drive. And so you want to be ready to kind of tackle any problems head first, to face the world with eyes wide open, hearts forward, and you want to be ready to kind of channel any frustration or pain through physical outlets. And what I mean by that is, like, go work out, get into martial arts, do some yoga, do some Tai Chi, go for a walk, sweat, find a way to exert energy so that it doesn't stagnate in your body. Chiron in Aries helps us ask the bigger questions around our personal identity. So you might be finding that your identity or your role is shifting and changing throughout this period. Who am I? Why am I here? You know, asking yourself these bigger questions, knowing that the answer is unfolding slowly and that it might not just unveil itself to you tomorrow, right? Taking full responsibility for right where you're at. That's what Chiron and Aries can do for you. And that is one of the most empowering things that you can do for yourself. So that's a look at where most of the bigger planets are going to be landing and staying. You know, the nodes will shift at the end of the summer. I didn't discuss Mercury, Venus, like what's the other one I left out? I didn't discuss kind of the moon, of course, the smaller planets that move quickly. Those will be addressed in the monthly forecast. But I do want to point out one of the biggest transits of 2021 are the series of Saturn-Uranus squares. And since Saturn is going to be squaring Uranus, you'll see Jupiter doing that too, right? They're kind of slowly moving together as they make this square aspect to Uranus, which is a challenging aspect. This is part of a larger cycle that has been running from 1988 and will continue to play out through 2032. We have 3 exact hits in 2021 and a 4th one that comes awfully close. But these 3 exact hits, you're going to feel them for a couple months in advance. It's going to crescendo, get louder, 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 gong crash, release of energy. It gets quieter, 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 and that's the cycle, right? So the like peak dates, I would say, is February 17th, June 15th, October 1st through 12th, kind of maybe, and then December 24th, right? So this is a period where we realize like things just worked until they didn't. You know, Saturn forces, Uranus explodes, and I think that we're gonna see a lot of ultimatums, a lot of things coming to a crashing end. And this period has been described as a controlled demolition of freedom. And so you can go crazy with that. Like there's all kinds of ideas you can have and thoughts you can think, but control and order are often really just illusions. And so just reminding that you're in control of yourself. That, you know, that like, look at the Viktor Frankls of the world, read some of those autobiographies of people that have experienced incredible amounts of control and oppression, but yet somehow on the inside weren't truly controlled. They were in charge of their own heart. And so this idea of the systematic deconstruction of freedom and power, what happens is it gives us space to really evolve to a better version of ourselves, one that we never thought possible. So this is an uncomfortable door that is opening for a new level of trust between ourselves and the unseen world. So as Merlin, the Merlin astrologer, Rick Levine, put it, he said, we go further into denial or we give our old shit up, right? We're going to be facing the music, reaping what we have sown. The prophecy of the Cree Indians, I think, is really appropriate here. You know, the one where they say, when the last tree is cut down, when the last fish is eaten, and the last stream poisoned, you'll realize that you cannot eat money. You know, and so this idea of taking care of Mother Earth, our resources, becoming food independent, recalibrating your personal core values and the people that you hang out with, the groups that you affect and interact with, rewriting the rules, the house rules of your family, and recalibrating, going with the flow, being like a leaf on a fast moving stream, using the Jack Welch quote, change before you have to. These are going to be kind of epic things to be looking at throughout the year, again, as big picture themes. In quarter one, you know, I feel like we're going to have an opportunity to observe, to go slow, to be a little bit more internal still. Quarter two, I think we're going to start to risk our hearts, get out of our heads and more into our hearts. Quarter three is when that, thank God, that reset, that recalibration, that recharge energy comes back, optimism returns. And then quarter four is all about synthesizing everything that has been coming through and unfolding over the year. So we're going to watch out for compulsive behaviors, and we're going to go slow, and nobody's going to get hurt. And I hope you come back for the play-by-play, the month-by-month. The monthly forecast is over at Wise Skies. And I do want to throw a little, I guess, pitch out there that I offer free tarot readings every Friday at noon Central Time. I do this live on the Facebook channel, but I upload them to YouTube as well. So I hope you'll join us there. If you're learning metaphysical topics, we've got a metaphysical learning group on Facebook through Wise Skies, also at Instagram and Twitter. And the best way to reach me and stay tuned with all of the astrological weather forecasting is through the newsletter. So I hope this has been enjoyable, a fun episode for you, something to look forward to with the changes in the energy, the fives, the 200-year cycle that we're going through, the gong crashes of Saturn and Uranus. It is going to be a year like no other. We're living through amazing times. You have a huge opportunity, and I hope that you just, I guess, rise to the occasion of your life. So until we can work together again, namaste, and thank you so much for listening.